Yeah, I know.
I like my girls ratchet.
Recording in progress.
Hello, this is the Astrobros coming to you live from all those stars. And we're a little bit of a bar right now, drinking, talking, looking
Like,
directly at you in that camera. How are you guys tonight?
Good. I had a good day today. Many good things happened. Nothing specific. I walked my dogs and I was lucky. The dog that I walked did not take a shit, but the dogs that my two boys walked took shit. So I had to, give them bags and I didn't have to clean up anything. It was great. So that is,
nice.
one of the joys of my day. Um,
Outsourcing labor.
it is great having boys. I tell you what.
Yeah,
Yep.
I'm doing good too. Chilling,
Yeah,
drinking, enjoying this beautiful night. It's muggy. It's
we
nice.
be drinking, we be thinking. What do those stars be doing, boys?
The stars.
Well, lots of stuff, man. There's a lot of stuff happening. Um, Sun's about to move into Gemini. We're gonna have a very busy Gemini season this weekend. Well, tomorrow, Sun moves into Gemini and begins the season of polarization and some pretty heavy shit, dude. So Saturn's going to be moving into Aries, starting to begin its slow pace to try to catch up with Neptune in Aries. Saturn will not actually catch up with Neptune for a conjunction until February 20th of 2026. So, but it'll be very close during that whole time. They're basically going to dance right really close to each other. And in general, the Saturn Neptune conjunction is about disillusionment. Um, in the 0 degrees Aries, which is where it's going to meet up, I'd say we're going to see a lot of fucking I mean, I hate to say it, but it's going to be a little bit more. It's going to get a little bit more real up in this. There's been a lot of people have been wondering when arrests are going to start, when the other shoe is going to drop. I would say that once Saturn moves into Aries, you start seeing a lot more of that kind of shit where big moves are made. Um, and then we've got Jupiter also moving into Cancer a little bit later in Gemini season, but we can talk about that in a future episode. I think we should probably just focus on Saturn and Aries. And
Yeah.
Nick, do you want to say a little bit about Saturn and Aries together? Like, do they work well together, first and foremost?
I mean, traditionally, no, no, they don't. The Aries energy does not like restriction, and
Nope.
Saturn definitely puts a big old damper on it. And yeah, I mean, it's gonna be it's like putting the brakes on something that wants to just go and do, and like, oh, I have this idea, I want to run with it, go for it. And then it's like, nope, here's the problems, here's the issues, here's the restrictions. Think about it 20 times, make sure it's good. It's like, well, no, I just want to fucking do. I just want to do the thing. And it's like, no, and yeah, it can cause. I mean, look, I bet people are gonna get a little bit like more frustrated, more like the energy of Aries inside everybody is gonna get restricted, and a lot of people are going to adjust to that in a way or react to that in a way that like probably is not going to come out, at least in the beginning. You know how like with any planet transit, like the first third of it is like the worst of it,
Yeah.
and then like the middle is like it like starts to settle in. Some people start to figure it out, and by ideally by the last third of it, it's better expression of it. Well, that first third is going to be fun. So yeah, I do. I mean, and just going like, I mean, you did mention the Jupiter going into Cancer and like stuff coming out, and like Saturn going into Aries. Well, you know, the United States chart, if we're going off of the one for July 4th, 1776, you know, we are. It's going to be a little while, but it has Saturn and Libra, so it's going to have a Saturn opposition eventually, and then also Jupiter will move across the United States' sun. So I think it's going to be it's and both of them being cardinal signs, it's going to bring things up and bring them out. Um, and I think that there's going to be some changes that happen and some stuff that really does happen. It might not be in the next year, but it'll be in the next. It could be within like the next year to year and a half. But yeah,
Yeah. I actually have a lot of positive feelings for the U.S. in general with Jupiter moving into Cancer. I think that there's going to be a lot of good that comes out of that
yeah, yeah,
because Jupiter in Cancer is considered like where Saturn hates being in Aries, Jupiter loves being in Cancer. And we are a Cancer country. The issues with Jupiter in Cancer is Cancer is known as like a more clannish, connected to roots, connected to genetic history kind of shit sometimes. So when Jupiter moves into Cancer and Saturn moves into Aries, Saturn and Aries tends to be times when if you're not doing it yourself, if you're not like bringing in the bacon for yourself, it tends to be a time where you get really restricted, like because you have to depend on yourself during Saturn and Aries in general. So it tends to be a time where we're pulling back a lot of spending for social programs and stuff like that. And if you
Yep.
look at the history of it, the last time it was there, I think, was under Clinton when he did the welfare to work and like really cut back American welfare quite a bit. And in this case, we've got Doge that's like cutting a bunch of, a bunch of money that you can say it wasn't going to the good places, but it was also money that was, people were living off of, you know. Um, so you're going to see a lot less government expenditure for the welfare of the public, at least at the beginning of the Saturn in Aries transit. And it tends to be that the mood of the public is like they need to fucking get off their asses and get something done. It tends to be like that energy
Yeah.
comes up during this, especially because it comes after like in this case, it comes after Neptune and Pisces, which, we were basically saying, yeah, just bring in the whole fucking world. We're fine, right? And
Yeah.
then
We're
we
all
weren't fine.
collective. Yeah.
We
Yeah.
we were not fine.
Yeah.
And I think that we're going to see a lot more like tribalism develop. I think you can already see aspects of that where the tale of the two GoFundMe's or the Give Send Goes, where some dude stabbed a guy at a track meet and made $500,000 for his defense, and then some lady called somebody the N word on a playground, a 5-year-old kid supposedly, but then they didn't record that, but somebody came up and said, "Do you want to say it
It
again?"
just
And she was like,
it
"Yes,
reminds
I'll
me
say it
of
again."
It reminds me
And
of the
so,
classic theological question where it's like you have two sports teams, but they both are praying for them to win. Who's going to win and who's God going to pick? Well, now the answer is just clear. It just God loves the person with the more money in their give, send, go.
yeah, obviously that's true. In that case, God loves Shiloh the most in this case because I think she got like 750,000 or something so far. I haven't looked at it lately, but
Did you ever read
um,
those books as a
but if you
kid,
think
Shiloh
about
books?
what,
They were good. I really liked them.
huh, are you talking about like little golden books? Is that what you're
The
talking about? What?
Yeah, the books. There was 3 books, Shiloh. They were good books.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I don't
Well,
know what you're talking about,
Sorry,
but
I
that's
just
okay.
needed to.
ADD fist
I'm just trying to
bro.
plug some relevant, like, cultural history to
Fuck
show that
yeah,
we are
dude.
cultured
Dude.
MFers.
Yes.
Because I
Cool.
like to F those M's.
And
So,
Shiloh LaBeouf was in the book or the movie Holes, based on another book from our childhood. Anyways, enough
They
about
will not divide us.
they will not divide us. And no, I don't know.
That's my
We're still
cultural
talking.
reference.
Yeah,
sorry to
perfect, perfect.
interrupt you.
We all know our shit. I would say though, okay, so we're talking about Saturn and Aries, like, and if I mean, I'm gonna play the ideal card because that's my job is to play like, oh, what's the positive? Um, so what you kind of building off of what Mike was saying, it's like, yeah, Saturn, it says like, okay, you have a responsibility but right now instead of like to the collective, to like everyone else, being compassionate and caring about it, it's like, no, you have
Yes.
responsibility now, and where you'll get the benefits of Saturn is to the self, to making sure, you as a person can handle yourself individually. And if everyone handles themselves individually, then that will work out fine. Of course, that's not going to happen, but that's the push. So, like, if you want, like, oh, what can I do during this time? Well, one of the things you can do is focus on how can I get my own shit together? How can I get myself in order? How can I, you know, focus on my own needs so then I can then, help others if that's necessary, like say you have family or whatever. But just really like focusing on yourself, taking care of yourself, and taking care of both your physical self, your physical health, but also like your individual needs and like and yeah, be selfish, but not like in a arrogant, shitty way, but like just focus on yourself first. Like it's not about like sacrificing yourself for everyone else right now, or when Saturn moves into Aries. It's about sacrificing for yourself to get better, to do what you need. So
Well, you could also see it as sacrificing the false self, you know, the self that
yeah,
can't
hey,
stand up on its own.
well said. Yeah,
Um,
Oh, definitely.
and there's a lot of people that need to do that, so it could be really good for the country in general. I think in general, again, there's all these illusions that we kind of operate under. Um, and the kind of Pluto and Aquarius, Neptune and Aries age is about coming to terms with those illusions, kind of getting beyond them, um, recognizing where power is, and how much of that power we've given away. And in order to do that, you
yeah,
kind of have to build up yourself again. You have to become more self reliant, self sufficient, trust in your own self instead of trusting in the experts. So
yep.
I think people that are able to do that or have already started kind of doing that are going to have an easier time of this transit. That would be how to flow with it is do the hard work on yourself to become a better fucking not necessarily become a more moral person or whatever,
No, no,
but
no.
become a better, more aware, more holistic. Um, there's another word, more sovereign person. It's about
Yes.
sovereignty. I feel like this whole next era is going to
Oh
be
yeah.
about finding
Yes.
your own sovereignty.
Yes.
Um,
Individualism. Because like both, I believe Aquarius. Yeah, Aquarius is about the collective too, but it's about unique individualism mixed with Aries energy, which is very much about individualism. So yes, like sovereignty, individualism, finding that like who are you in this messy world of just everything is just lumped together and clumped together, and yeah, there's no individuality anymore. So finding that.
yes. So instead of
Um,
feeling like you have to like argue with every single person that says something slightly against your beliefs in, say, an astrology group, um, maybe some people will start to get to the point where they don't have to, you know, like they
Mhm.
don't feel the need to um, defend groupthink. I'm hoping that that starts to become a little bit more where people look down on it, you know, like I think that that is kind of what needs to happen. It needs to be a groupthink, especially unthinking. Uh, groupthink is like kind of the enemy of our own self development right now. And I think that that is something that we're going to have to actively discourage.
Yeah, and shake off because it's been groupthink has been actively encouraged the past like decade plus, and so it's.
Yes.
I mean, obviously it goes back farther, but it really got extreme the past like decade plus. So like, yeah, and so yeah, it's gonna be, and maybe in a way that's part of the Aries energy is you have to like almost fight that, like you fight your conditioning basically, like fight
Yep.
what you've been what you've been inundated with and what you've been experiencing for so long. Then you have to push and use energy, like you know, and actively push against that to find that individualism in this mob herd, whatever you
Yes.
want to call it. Yeah,
Definitely. So I feel
yeah,
like that's like the big thing that we're facing. I think that there's going to be a lot more kind of warriors that come out, and they're going to be more hardcore. I mean, if you think about Kanye recently, like some of the stuff that he's been doing, um, his latest song that came out. I mean, I'm not going to say anything about it because YouTube gets really mad about it, but
sing the
which
chorus,
is
Mike.
weird, right? Like, there's aspects of that that's kind of weird. YouTube. I'm just saying. It's weird that certain things are
we love
totally
you,
beyond the
YouTube.
pale and others aren't. Um, but if you think about that as just like a bomb, a culture bomb that he dropped, and he knew what was going to happen when he dropped that bomb, he knew exactly what the response was going to be, which proved his fucking point, which is
Yeah,
like that was the whole goal. He like
Well,
literally
he was
mimetically
also he
won.
he was pushing his weight around for one thing on an ego level, but on an intellectual level, like, and I haven't even like really listened to the song, but just like seeing the ripples. Um, he was doing exactly what you were doing. He was basically being like, "Oh yeah, watch me put this fucking stick in, and I'm gonna just take the whole what am I trying to say? The I forget the fucking name. The guy acceptable behavior in society. I forget his name right now.
Overton window.
Thank you,
that's it.
Overton. That's the guy's name. You take the Overton window, and he's just gonna yank it. He's like, "Hey, I'm gonna do one thing, and I'm gonna yank the Overton window." And you guys, and it's just like, and like what you've been saying a little bit, Mike, is that essentially a good meme is going to out undo so much cultural programming and so much brainwashing. And that's really what he did in a positive sense, where he
Mhm.
basically just said, "Hey, you know what? I can poke at the edges of your mind control." And that is kind of cool. And
Mhm.
I'm not even a fan of his music.
I am a fan of his
I am.
music. I've
Yeah,
really liked a lot
yeah.
of Kanye West music. I think
Me too.
Runaway is like a fucking all-time banger. I
Yes.
think
Yeah.
that
Black.
Ultralight Beam is
Yeah.
so good. Like the
Black
Life of
skinhead.
Pablo.
Oh yeah.
What?
Black skinhead is like such a fucking good song. I love that one.
There's so many good ones like
Yeah.
Power. Like oh, anyway, I
Yeah.
like Ye. And there was a
Me too.
long time where people were like, anytime you brought him up online, people were like, how dare you like this person? And that's always been something that's like, whenever somebody's like, how dare you like this person, whether it be like, Trump or Kanye or what have you, I've always gotten more fixed in my opinion that I'm going to like them because fuck you. I don't have to like who you tell me to like because who the fuck are you, you know?
Well,
Mhm.
Um,
and the thing I've learned in the
my
last like
general
7
energy.
years with all the culture war stuff is 80% of the time when they try to demonize someone, it's like it's nothing, you know? And you're just like, oh, this person just is a heterodox opinion. And heterodox just means that you're thinking differently. That's it. Because it's the opposite of orthodox.
What
Yep.
about homodox? Hey, heterodox, homodox.
Pretty
Okay.
much. No,
Okay.
I mean, orthodox is basically the same thing as heterodox or homeodox. But yeah. But also, yeah. It's just, but the idea is just what type of thinking and like how you derive your thinking. And a lot of it comes down to like mob mentality and epistemology too, of how do you get your information and how do you verify your information as being true. And it's that classic thing that I love from season 1 of Game of Thrones. Oh, it is known. It is known. And that's just consensus reality. And it's just like, and consensus reality is not fact, you know? And that's a, and because that's just not how truth works. So, and it's a very interesting thing. Like, truth is much easier to interact with on a personal level than on a community level, you know, because you have to agree about reality and then also agree about facts. And then on top of that, agree about solutions. And those are like several levels, that like of interacting with people is like it's fundamental to who we are like on a biological level, and it's like, and it's one of those things that we learn like through a lot of play structure, because like when we're kids we try to emulate the behavior around us, whether that be playing house or pretending to be cops and robbers, cowboys and Indians, whatever. We see these phenomenons in reality that we're trying to mimic, and yeah, and that's part of the reason why, like, I guess I'm just like tangenting off, but why archetype is
Oh,
so important,
oh yeah.
and
Oh yeah.
examples, because role models are essentially just archetypes. That's it,
Yeah.
and there's tons of different types of archetypes because there's different blendings of different people that can express in different ways because we're all very ahead in certain areas of our growth patterns, and then certain other areas we're far behind, and it causes this weird disruption pattern, as you would say in like wave physics, you know that interference pattern causes something that wouldn't be there otherwise. And the same thing like when you're doing like herbology, when you combine certain herbs together, you're going to get effects that wouldn't have been there otherwise.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, uh like weed and opium. Like if you combine those two, you're gonna have a different feeling than you would with either one, right?
Yeah,
Um,
I wouldn't know what that feels like. I
no, of
mean,
course, no,
but I
nobody
assume
would.
it would feel good,
Mm.
I
you know.
think opium is bad. First of all, it brought China to its knees. Do we want to be
Mhm.
China? No,
Mhm.
no. Do we want to have wars over opium? No, no.
Yes.
So, okay,
Yes.
We
maybe.
already
Yeah,
have
Yeah.
it.
let's
No.
have some wars over. Maybe that's what
Novel.
like let's take down that. No, I'm not going to talk about that. But I have been seeing more and more videos of people like on that one drug where they end up like hunched over and they're like sleeping standing, but like
Is that
in weird positions that you shouldn't even
Trank?
be able to get into.
Trank or a different one? Is there a
I
new
think
one?
it's Trank. I think that is Trank.
There's some new ones now, but yeah, it probably is Trank. But yeah, oh yeah,
That shit's crazy. That
that's
is a
crazy.
very dark drug.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
the fact
yeah.
that people are willing to do that suggests it probably feels pretty good though, because
Well,
otherwise they wouldn't do it. So
it probably feels really good, but boy, it just take it. I mean, you brought this up a while ago. I mean, not in the podcast, so I'm not gonna, but just you were talking about like the energy you got from someone who was on like heroin or whatever. Like
yeah,
you almost didn't feel their energy. Like that's what
yeah,
these drugs do is they zap people. Like, yeah, in their own little world, they're fucking probably in heaven or whatever their version of heaven is. It's really hell, but yeah. And then, but it like zaps your energy, your soul, whatever fucking you want to call it. Like it turns you into almost like an animal because you just need to like all you care about is like your next fix and like all you care
yeah.
about is that and you like just blinders on to. I mean, I don't know. Like, yeah, it
Yeah.
takes something away from you. I don't know what that is, like energetically, whatever the
Part
aura
of
represents.
part of it is like as I understand it is it's a heavy dopamine cycle because dopamine is very much I'm pursuing something and then at the same time you're in that fight or flight response.
Yeah.
So you're basically and like when you get into that addict state, you're in fight or flight response. So you're very quick to fight or flight or fawn, you know, or you
What's
fentlock.
fawn? What do you mean? What do you mean? Fight, flight, or
Fawning
fawn?
fawning is
Prostitute, hoe
no, no, no.
yourself. Oh,
It yeah, no, but that's literally part of it actually.
oh, okay. I was
But
just
but
kidding, but yeah.
fawning is basically like where the kid puts on the perfect kid behavior where I'm just going to
Oh,
basically be a martyr to my parents because they're the only things I can do to get my needs met. So like and it's not done in an affectionate way and it's not done in a conscious way as much more that oh sure mommy I'll do whatever you want. Oh yeah. And then it's like even when they're being mean and they still they're like their way is to soothe the parent and because they're basically the emotional weather that's coming off of the parent is more important than anything else in the reality so that they're using the way that they're going to regulate their own emotions is by regulating their parents emotions by being the best child ever.
oh.
That's essentially what fawning is. Or you'll have certain wives in
What does that
or
have to
men.
do with Trank though? I'm trying to figure out
Or just opiates in
how
general.
does that connect? How does fawning connect with drugs?
Because it's part because the trauma cycle and the fight, flight, fawn, or freeze responses is directly corresponded with I'm going to flee from those feelings by taking drugs.
Oh, okay.
So it's a coping
Oh,
mechanism.
okay. I see. I interpret it as like people will. That's how like when they're fixated on trying to get their drugs, they'll respond in those ways too. So they'll fight you and steal your fucking money. They'll flight and just run away because they're just like fucking paranoid and crazy. They'll fawn by being like, "Hey man, like I have this." I'm like, "Oh, like oh, but my baby needs money for food," when it's really just for drugs. Maybe that's the wrong. And then
Or
freeze would just
both.
be the hunched over. But yeah, maybe or like
Yeah.
just being like super nice, trying to like. Because have you ever talked to like someone on like drugs asking you for money? Like
Yeah.
they almost they like they're like kissing your ass because they want something from you, and you can feel that. You can feel that energy. You're like, I know you just want to ask me for a fucking dollar, so you're just being super. You're like I had a homeless guy come to me and be like, "Hey King, what's up, brother? You're so cool." Yeah, I'm like, okay.
Right?
Immediately, I'm like, oh, okay.
Love
And it's
bombing.
just yeah, okay, yeah,
Obsequious. Isn't that the word?
yeah,
Obsequious when somebody is like,
I've
um,
never heard that. I like it.
yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the word. It's like when somebody is like very obviously putting on a front to try to get close to you because they want something. It's
yeah.
like what people would do in front of kings and stuff like that.
Uh,
They're, it's like basically people that just,
it's
leave all of their personal pride because there's something more important than the personal pride.
got
Because they're
it.
just trying to suck up to get something,
Well,
like
yeah,
that's
yeah.
the energy.
Yeah.
Well, no,
Well,
exactly. And
and
in the
that comes
Dragonite's
into
case,
the
it's the
like
drug.
nice guy thing, and it's because the nice guy syndrome is essentially A covert contract where I be a nice guy and you get my needs met because I was nice to you. And it's basically that you can't communicate your needs up front. And but I guess, one thing I do need to do is communicate my needs up front is I need another drink. So why don't we just
Oh,
take a second and we'll be right back in a minute. All right. So I fixed my drink because I like to be
oh,
nice to myself. But speaking of nice guys, because like nice guy is a syndrome. It's like in the psychology world and a lot in the like men's self-help world. That's basically just like, and a lot of guys fall into it. And I mean, ladies fall into it in their own way, but it's just male psychology is a little different, just in its subtleties. But it's essentially that you're creating covert contracts with people around you to essentially get your needs met. And it's essentially that you don't have the bravery to or the ability to like tell the truth to the people around you and be vulnerable about what you need from them. And so then it leads into various types of very similar to addictive behavior. And that's where you kind of are going to be manipulative or avoidant or different things. But basically, you don't trust people to actually let them know your true intentions. So you're basically kind of like more or less manipulating people. And it's a hard thing to realize that like a lot of people are manipulating the people around them even though that they don't realize it.
yeah.
And it kind of goes hand in hand with like attachment styles, but also like with addictive behavior in that same way, because the same way that you're kind of, I mean, but basically, like almost no, I don't know anybody who really falls into an addictive pattern that doesn't have like psychological underlying issues of their needs not being met in other areas.
Okay, so like the addictive behavior is a almost a reaction or a or not coping
Yep.
mechanism. It's like a reaction to you're not getting your needs met, so it almost like develops this like extreme need for something. Basically,
Yeah, it's
is
both.
that
It's both.
okay?
Well, and that's part of that coping mechanism because it's we also do it with other things. And that's also what spiritual bypassing is in that same way. That like let me just put it this way. To steel man the point that okay, I have a legit spiritual experience with something. Well, that is something that helps you like kind of pull out of your mundane life and it kind of gives you a little bit of power, but at the same time is that like even if you find like the classic thing is that before enlightenment you chop wood and carry water, after enlightenment you chop wood and carry water to be because it's like we're still multidimensional creatures. And that's part of that thing is pushing against that classic ego trap of, oh, I have now that I'm spiritual, I'm no longer bound by my ego, so therefore I get to now neglect all of my 3D,
Right.
responsibilities.
Yeah.
And part of those is communicating your boundaries and operating things because like when you are in like I guess like to over accentuate if you're in a spiritual community of how things ought to be in that perfect setting, yeah, you don't need boundaries because everybody is going to be so considerate of you in the first place that they're going to ask your preferences and always think about it. But the thing is that like we're sitting down here with very limited focus and we get overwhelmed all the time, and it's really easy for us to forget other people's preferences as much as that they're important to us because there's just too many things to think about. We live in an infinite reality and we have finite attention span, you know? So we always have to prioritize.
We probably
Yeah.
think of other people's preferences maybe a little bit too much. Like
Some people for sure.
maybe, especially for this new era that we're going into, you know.
Hmm.
The way that I always thought about nice guys was if you put enough nice guy tokens into a woman, sex comes out, right? Like that's
Same
it's
thing.
like you're trying to nice guy him into, which tends not to work. It's weird. That approach, surprisingly, very bad. Very bad for getting
What?
women. You
Well, that
cannot you can get like sometimes some sex from it. I'm not saying that it never works. I'm just saying that it tends to like have less positive benefit because the intent is not good, right? It's like I'm being nice because I want something. It's and niceness itself, just itself, is not good. It's
Yep.
like niceness is not being good. Being kind is being good, right? You can be
Nice
kind and not nice.
niceness is a
Like,
veneer. It's not actually a substance.
yes, it's gay. I mean, in the
It's
broader
like
term,
makeup.
not in the, not in the
Yeah.
it's not homosexual.
No, no, no,
It's
no. I get
gay in
that.
the 90s sense.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
But also a little bit gay in the
I
gay
do know what
sense
you're
of
saying.
overcompensating on an external sense, because you feel it's overcompensating outside because you feel a lack inside. And
Yeah.
and and I've never done that as an Aries, so
Well, people want to be good too. They want to be seen as righteous or good. And in fact, this is like one of the biggest traps that people get into. They want to be seen as very important, like having important things to say. I'm smart, I'm good, I'm kind, I'm nice, Like you want to be seen as those things. So anything that gets reflected back to you that does not affirm your being a badass or Billy Badass or whatever, like doesn't fit your programming, doesn't fit what you want to be, and you end up being like kind of a fucking tool. And this happens in the group a lot where people end up being tools because they can't like fucking let go of their self-image for long enough to fucking be actually
well,
real. Because or
it's
even vulnerability doesn't necessarily that can be feigned too, that can be
Hmm.
like, oh, if I'm
Hmm.
vulnerable I'll get this thing maybe,
well,
you
the
know
Yeah.
thing is vulnerability is sometimes used as a weapon. And the thing is
of
that
course.
like well, and vulnerability in the most generic sense is opening up to somebody. And the context is like if you're doing it right, you're using it as a glue because you're going to be like, "You know what? Here's a thing." And then you use your vulnerability and this is how I was vulnerable about that thing. And then you basically, it's like putting a brick and then putting the mortar down. Then the next person says something, they put their brick down and their mortar down, which is basically, here's the fact that happened to me and here's my vulnerability around it. And if you do that between each other, well, you build bridges.
True.
I
I mean,
mean,
and you can also use vulnerability as a trap, right? You
Oh,
can be
yeah.
vulnerable and see who uses it to attack you, right? Like, so you show your vulnerability, and then somebody will come out and be like, "Oh, this is my perfect time
Oh,
to strike,"
well,
and
classic energy
then you can
vamp
get them.
and psychopath behavior is also false vulnerability. I'm gonna
Yes,
give it's basically it's like chumming up the water. I'm gonna chum up with something that like I don't care that people know about me. Everybody knows about me. It's part of like my persona. But you're gonna tell me something that is a hook point, and then I'm gonna use my chum to hook you, and then at that point well, you've basically like I anteed in and you went, like half your pot. So now it's like it's very disproportional. And now they're playing in an energy imbalance for like the entire context of their relationship.
keep them on the back foot, motherfucker.
Yep.
I mean, okay, can I just jump in? I would say
Yeah.
a lot of the insecurities and all the stuff we're talking about can be solved if you, it's all comes from like, if you, like, the reason why we lie is because we lie to ourselves. We want to convince other people of our lies so that we feel better about it. Or it's a main reason. We're like, if I can convince you of my lie, then you'll repeat it back to me and then I can believe it and then I don't have to like doubt myself. Or if
Yes,
I feel
for real.
vulnerable inside myself, I feel insecure inside myself, then I'm going to like do these
Yep.
things to like put stuff out there, try to like, play these games and all this stuff. But like if you just go like, I'm gonna be honest with myself, I'm gonna feel, fine with who I am, my shit and other all the good, bad, and ugly. You're not gonna number one, you're not gonna act in these ways as much
Yep.
because you don't there's not that like internal compelling like I need to get this outside approval or I need to be seen as a certain way or any of that stuff. And then like and again this goes back to the whole Saturn Aries like Aries lessons. It's like yeah, just be comfortable inside yourself first, and then at what you put out you won't need to put out these types of things. You won't need to play these games. You won't need to like do like like the we were talking about earlier about like
Well, yeah.
fawning or whatever that kind of behavior stuff like
Yeah,
that. So
Well, and
a
connect,
lot of it.
connect,
Oh,
and it's
go
how
ahead.
I
Go ahead.
see
connect it to
it.
authenticity too. I
Okay.
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
like
Oh, totally,
I'm
totally.
not trying to talk over you, Troy, but I'd
No,
like
you're
to
good.
get
Go ahead.
this point to through as well. Um, so the more authentic you are in yourself, the more that you are just being yourself and your normal the less so you're going to lose people by being yourself. That's part of the game, right? The more you are yourself, the more people are going to fall away, but you're also going to bring people in that actually like you for your authentic self.
Yep.
So you'll get the validation if you are yourself. But if you're looking for the validation with by putting the not self forward, you're feeding your own illusion, you're feeding your own shadow. And
Yep.
it's like, and it's usually to burnish ego. It's almost always to polish this false sense of identity that is not
Yep.
really you. You know, it's like a mirror of yourself. It's like
Yeah.
Yes.
it's
Yes.
not yourself. It's like
Yes.
this bullshit aspect of self.
Well, and you said
Yeah.
most of
No.
what I was going to say, but added in your own context. What I was going to just point out, like on a biological level, is this is part of the feedback loop of how our brains are wired as a human being. And that essentially that like so if you want to take on the triune brain theory, that essentially you have your reptilian brain, you have your mammalian brain, like essentially on top of that, and then on top of it you have your Homo sapien brain. And
Frontal
so
cortex.
yeah, yeah, and it's an oversimplified version, but it's a good analogy that essentially that like your reptilian brain is going to basically only have fight or flight response, and it doesn't have herd mentality because it's basically just. But then your mammalian part of your brain, that's where your herd mentality comes in. I always have to fall in line at all costs. And then essentially you have your Homo sapien brain, which is essentially that like, okay, I'm going to think for myself. I'm going to be my own autonomous person. But that can also go awry in the same point of being like punkish, where I'm going to be against something just to be against something. So,
Yeah.
they all have their own like double-edged sword, but it's like when you understand this, the like one thing is that's really interesting is that like when the new or evolutionarily speaking, as they understand it, is as the new like brain evolved, it went right on top of the same other neural pathways. So the thing is that like when you're activating more or less your this is oversimplifying it. Your prefrontal cortex, it's going to essentially take over those same pathways that the trauma responses would be on. So like actually doing breathing exercises and making conscious effort, actually like addressing your shadow in a conscious way, and these things, and it's like being intentional about your actions and taking things into context is uh and plus all the other knowledge and growth that goes along with it is really just like, but that's the core that kind of ties it all together as far as I understand.
Oh yeah. Oh
Word. Word
Yeah.
them up.
So, I guess I feel an energy transition. So, there's the thing is also talking about more Saturn and Aries stuff. I'm gonna
yeah.
screen
Okay.
share. I think I need a permission from Nick.
I had to kill some cockroaches.
Fuck
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. Apparently, they spread eggs when you smash them.
Well, you just clean up very well and you flush them.
Thanks.
So
I
you
didn't
don't
know
have to
that.
worry about that.
Good to know.
Well, you don't have very many cockroaches in fucking Eugene.
I've seen a few, but I've seen
I'm
them
not saying that
downtown
there's
actually.
none. I'm sure some of those dirty fucking hippies brought them in from the road, you know?
Well,
But
and we're
there's
not
not
that
very many in the Northwest
there. Well,
in
it's the
general.
cold kills them off for the most part. So the
Mm-hmm.
thing is that like, well, it's a lot. We being here, we get like certain spiders that aren't really supposed to be here. There's a couple other things that they'll just come in with freight and lumber and different things like that. So it's just like you do have to be a little bit careful about some of that stuff, especially in nowadays terms. Like, well, I've also been a farmer, so it's like dealing with like basically like if I live in the country, I'm never taking almost anything from the city and trying to introduce it into my farm on a regular basis because that's just asking to introduce more pathogen disease, more invasive species and such like that. But it's like if you're downtown, you're already subject to a lot of that stuff already, you know? So there's always just like understanding the nutrient flows and the flows of genetics, both microscopically and macroscopically, really comes in. And a lot of people don't think about that, but I just really love permaculture. Permaculture has been like one of my passions for a long time. All right. Can you enable screen sharing, Nick?
Thank you. Oh yeah. Is it not? Make a request.
I did. I think
Oh.
you might have to actually like change it in the settings. But yeah,
Yeah,
no,
permaculture is cool. I think that's a more natural way to live. I think probably we're going to end up moving that way towards more permaculture
yep.
because the way that we're doing it with just like mass extraction and poisoning of resources is not like a long term way to do it. I
Well,
mean,
no,
I'm
and
not saying that the UN should be like telling us, to make ourselves starve because we don't have energy, and eat bugs and shit like
that
that. I
would
don't
be
think that that's the way.
ridiculous.
I think permaculture has to be a more localized phenomena. I think if we end up doing it, there's going to be less people in some areas of the world, like heavy deserts, We're not going to have cities like fucking Las Vegas and Phoenix, in the middle of the desert where millions of people are living there.
For sure.
Um,
Well,
I think shit's going to change, It's like, and it has to,
and it's
but
like
it's going to happen slowly.
if we're going to dive into the subject a little bit, I would love to nerd out about this because I've spent like 10 years researching this kind of stuff. So there's some really cool stuff going on in certain ways. Like there's this guy named Sepp Holzer. He came out of Austria and he's in the Alps and he has like snow half the year or more on his property. And he has this beautiful property that like has cascading uh what I'm trying to say, different fish ponds and such like this that he's got koi and such in, and that
He's doing like aquaculture, basically.
he's doing aquaculture, but at the same time he's got lots of fruit trees and he's got pigs roaming around and he's got this whole entire setup which I've nerded out about
If
so
he
much.
if he's in the Alps, how does he keep the water warm enough so that it doesn't freeze over during the winters?
Different things, sometimes it just freezes. Different ponds freeze different. So he basically like he
That's true.
uses
Fish can live under the ice, but it depends on how deep it is, right?
well,
Like it's like
exactly.
a hard freeze will kill the fish.
For sure. And but also, I mean, and this is where like I don't know all the specifics on it because he also made a course on it where it's now a certification course that's taught by him. And apparently there's like one guy out of Canada who's like certified at it and he's a couple years younger than me, but like it's just like someone like my age to be like a completely sold out consultant and is like pretty impressive. And then there's been lots of P.A. Yeoman is one of the main authors of how we understand how earthworks work and how to do swales and how keyline systems work. That essentially that like you can go take
You're so losing me.
don't get me wrong.
Sorry.
You
Go
guys
ahead. Go
know
ahead. Sorry. You
lots of
are.
shit I don't know. So I'm just gonna
Yeah.
nerd out
No, no, no. You're good. You're
for
good.
a
I'm
couple
sorry.
for a
I'm
minute or
sorry. I'm
two
sorry.
more.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
So basically,
Go, go, go.
P.A. Yeoman, he wrote lots of books, and it was like 100 years ago now. But basically, it's just talking about how hydrology interacts with the landscape, and it's really fascinating. But the key thing is that like and we've known a lot of this stuff of how to fix the earth and a lot of our ecosystems for like 100 years. But the problem is that the people who have the most money or whatever and the influence and whatever haven't been like emphasizing the right things. And some of the times they've actually been pushing it down. And like
Yeah.
for soil biology, you have Elaine Ingham, who is basically she basically like one of her students in a grad program came up with a study and was testing GMO stuff on this of basically it was this thing that was going to turn crop waste into ethanol. But basically the bacteria, if it got out, according to their study, was essentially going to kill almost every fucking non-aquatic plant on land. So it's we're talking about like a and so that was what their findings were coming across. Now,
Hmm.
nature might have pushed back in something, but this was something that they wanted to push out anyway, even after this study. And she basically got pushed out of her tenure at OSU after this thing. And so now she's basically been operating off of pushing soil biology. Because, like, long story short, with our understanding of soil biology and regrarian things, we now understand the nutrient flows of the soil way, way better than we did even like 20, 30 years ago. And like we have the ability to kind of change the way we interact with the planet, change our carrying capacity. Um, and it's really just it's all biology, it's all life, because life is anti-entropic, you know, because entropy wants to make things move from order to disorder, but life wants to create its own order out of things, you know.
Yes. Create higher order, higher structure. That's the whole point of life.
Exactly.
The
Wait, I thought
the slow
entropy was the
spiral.
opposite. I thought entropy was. Oh, maybe I'm an idiot. I thought entropy was the opposite. I thought it was taking disorder and creating. It wants to like.
No, it's the
Okay,
the tendency of systems, stable systems to disintegrate, kind of.
I
I
got
think
it.
that's
Okay, okay,
Well,
entropy because
and
they
that's
okay.
lose
where the
energy over the course of time.
and that's the
Got
Um,
it.
and that's
Okay.
part of the idea, but behind the idea of the uh eventual heat death of the universe, which is essentially
Oh,
saying that the Big Bang comes, it explodes, and eventually it's going to dissipate. But that's just not understanding like as I understand creation physics is that when they're looking at the Big Bang is accurate, but it's understanding creation physics, but those creation physics happen on a microscopic level, not just a macroscopic level, you know, continuously, essentially. So you're
so
talking
what
about
was before the Big Bang?
um I mean, well, as far as we understand it, uh more divinity.
which, what
That's
is
not
that?
how the scientists that believe in the Big Bang exclusively see it, though, right? I
Well,
mean, they see it as like,
well,
I've always thought that the Big Bang itself is kind of an article of faith, you know? It's like there was nothing and then there was something, you know? And it's just like, well,
well,
what was before the something? How did the something, well, we don't, fucking, it just was a Big Bang, man. It was just happened.
well, as I
Why did it
understand that,
happen? What was the basis for making that? How did something come from nothing?
well,
Like,
God said,
it
"Let there be
doesn't
light."
actually resolve that. I don't think the Big Bang does not resolve the
oh, it doesn't.
fundamental fucking question.
No, no, it's the
You
same.
know?
It's the same thing when they do fucking dark matter. It's like, you know what? I figured out how the universe works, it's like, or I did this division problem. Remainder 80%. You know, it's just like
Yeah.
it. They're
I think.
making good assumptions, but the problem is like it's like I said, I think on a couple episodes ago. It's like peer review has major issues with it because it's ruled by humans, which have human ego.
Corporate, super corporate influence. Like
That
science is
too.
so and it's so gate kept. You have to have
Oh,
so much money to actually read the articles, or you have
oh,
to
that too.
be in a school. You know, some of them are free, but there was that one kid that tried to like make all the scholarly articles free. He basically put them out, and he got like killed for it. His car like mysteriously blew up. You know, it was like definitely a. He was one of the founders of Reddit before the evil bastards took it over. Um,
Yeah.
Reddit has become the
Right.
the shittiest of all the social media. Reddit,
Oh,
worst,
it's terrible.
worst.
Well, it's the definition of like mob mentality or herd mentality, is like that. Like it's like just like in a generic sense. No offense, Tauruses, but like when you just like have the herd. I'm an Aries, so I can't say too much. But like when you're at the herd, it's just you're always identifying threats at the perimeter. But in the center, there's always like weird little dramas going on because like at least in animal psychology, um they don't have words to communicate. So everything has to be over exaggerated to be able to communicate. And everything's always through this weird gesture. I grew up as a farmer. So it's just the way that they interact as a herd mentality is always
threat orientated, but when they're not in threat mode, they're always in essentially basic needs uh acquisition, and depending on the animal, you're going to have different priorities, and also on the breed, you're going to have different priorities as well.
Yeah.
Well, it is interesting, like watching animal behavior. I enjoy it, but I'm not like I don't have good enough eyesight to be a really good watcher of anything, if that makes sense. Like my eyesight is bad enough that I'm never going to be a bird watcher, I can watch a show, sometimes, but I can't even see that super good all the time. So it's like
Oh,
um but behavior is a little bit different because that is something that happens anytime that you're interacting with an animal. You're going to learn what their behavior patterns are. For example, I have this asshole dog, and my asshole dog, he's a Gemini. I'm not sure if this is the reason he's an asshole, but he loves to escape. We built this whole new fence in the backyard, and he digs under the goddamn fence, and we kept
oh,
trying to like block it off more and more, and he just dig under whatever we used to block it off.
Treats
And
it
we
as a
finally had
game.
to put like a leader rope in the back with the dog connected to like this long, he's got a long run. It's like fucking 50 yards or 100 yards, but it's like he's so sad. He just sits in the back and basically mopes whenever we put him out there now because he is so mad that he can't just go out into the woods and be free. And his drive for freedom is kind of legendary, and I feel like maybe I need to move and go to like a bigger piece of land to be able to honor that dog's need for freedom.
yeah.
Well,
That's my feeling.
if
Yeah.
you do, I will gladly help you with some design, because like my goal is I would love like 60 to 100, 200, 300 acres, because like I want to have my own forest, I want to have my own wildlife on top of my own like actually manicured spaces.
Well, if we see any that's going for real cheap, we'll let you know. 60 to 100 acres is a lot. It would be great to
On the
have
East
that,
Coast.
but it couldn't be managed well at all by one person. You'd have
Mm-mm.
to have
Oh
like an
no.
entire fucking team of people to do that.
Well,
Um,
but it's also part of like the idea of using permaculture and agrarian type of principles
what
is
is
you're
regrarian? I've heard of agrarian. Is that
regenerative
regenerative
and agrarian put together. So
agrarian? Okay.
it's regenerative agriculture is basically another way to say it, but it's actually coined by Darren Doherty. Sweet, got the name. Um, and he has a whole like course, and his stuff is like really practical because he's basically like he's not really permaculture, but he is permaculture. But he has, but like if you take his stuff, he's like cuts to the core of it, and he talks to essentially about like understanding like your land type and how to interact with like, are you a more brittle land, or are you a more and he calls it like land hardness, which is kind of interesting, which is essentially like how much does it respond to damage, you know? And if it responds to damage quickly, well, then you can use lots of equipment, you can use lots of stuff like that, and it responds very well. But if it doesn't, you have to be very tactful with how you use stuff. And you have to, like, if you go use equipment in essentially a dry land area, well, you have to wait, like, in a desert, you have to wait, like, a year, maybe 2, 3 years for that rainfall to actually get in that swale to actually for that earthworks that you did to actually be effective.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, everybody becoming more aware that we are connected with. There is like this sense, I think, that the divine feminine is returning, and I think that that's actually kind of true. Um,
Oh yeah.
but I don't think it's like I think it's like we've gotten to this point where most or a large percentage of people are either in toxic masculine or toxic feminine, and they kind of feed each other.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, they justify
so
each other.
for sure, so it's like but I think men stopped realizing that there is a divine masculine because maybe we took it too much to heart being called toxic for so long. Um, but I think in this new era with Saturn and Neptune and Aries, I think dudes are going to get more into their divine masculine because divine masculine is about really inhabiting yourself and living your mythos, right? It's like the masculine is the quest, the adventure to a certain extent.
And writing your own
And
story.
yeah, it's becoming the author of your own story for sure. And the more that I've kind of thought about it, and I'm sure that there's a multiplicity in the universe, but the more that I've thought about it, the more that I think that the foundation of our entire world and our reality is words themselves. I think that the word is very key and it helps create and shape reality, like, and if you understand how to subvert words, you can get a lot of people believing in lies, right? Like, because you've subverted them through language to believe in lies, so much to the point that they'll even repeat the lies, because to not repeat the lies is to garner the negative attention of all the people that are repeating the lies. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I feel like that's like the big fucking bad right now. It's like false narratives, which create false consciousness, which create false reality. And the more that we are able to see it, kind of release ourselves from it, it kind of raises the frequency or the vibration or whatever you want to call it. And it raises everybody. Like when people are, you know, at a high frequency, at a high vibration, it affects the people around them, it's not just limited to yourself. Awakening breeds awakening, and it feels like there's like a something that's used to be there that's not there anymore, that kind of opposed this awakening. That's what I feel like. Something has shifted and we're all catching up, and I think our world's going to get a lot more complex than it is
Well,
right now. I think it's going to get a lot more,
it's
for lack of a better word, magical and spiritual and mystical than it is right now. And I think we're just in the process of it.
well, and to it's really, as I understand, the thing that's really changed is this. So during the 2012 drama, essentially what was trying to go on is that people were trying to anchor this planet into a fall instead of an ascension. And they were trying to pull it into a black hole matrix and, energy vamp. Essentially what happened is we weren't quite good enough to completely escape that, and then some spiritual failsafe was activated more or less, and now we're back on ascension path. But that was 2012 drama. So at this point, like, we're now getting that kind of hurt animal in the corner thing, where they're a hurt animal cornered is sometimes at its most dangerous.
For sure.
And I guess, like, like the whole, like, Saturn and Aries is like stuff's coming to a boil, you
Yeah.
know?
Shit has
And
to happen, right? You have to eventually like arrest some Epstein people. You have to eventually
hopefully,
do that, right? Don't you think? Feels like it.
I
You
mean,
have to eventually like fucking, oh my God. You have to stop like flirting with fucking nuclear war. It's fucking dumb. We're in a really crazy time. We're gonna need action. Things are gonna start happening.
yeah.
Um, and you can be kind of ready for it or not. That's kind of how it feels to me. I think the U.S. might be kind of protected. There are a lot of people here waking up.
Well, and to be honest, is like, if you look at historically through David R. Hawkins' work, and essentially, like, United States has always been the more higher frequency consciousness
I've been watching
plan or
Moth.
country. And the thing is that, like, all this stuff with the culture war, and this is
Dude,
my supposition, has been basically, and all this internet mind control stuff has been trying to lower people's frequencies to make us easier to control, to again be able to pull us and energy vamp us, you know, because it's like energy vamps don't work when you can make decisions for yourself. You know this. Mm. We left off at the
Well,
best of places
Oh yeah.
we covered a lot of
because
ground
I left
tonight, boys.
it was with you guys. I mean, that's like always the best place to be. The best place to see.
Yay.
Well, I'm sorry that like affection and looking each other is in the eyes is gay to you. So, you know,
Yep.
I mean, you're too far away to you know, touch peen or too
Yeah,
far
it's
away to
true.
like eye glean. So, you know, I guess I'll just have to pretend to be gay, just like the rest of the world, you know.
I mean, I think we're coming towards the end of fake and gay world. It's going to be uh, real to the point where it's going to be too real for a lot of people. I think, I think shit's about to get more real with Saturn and Aries. I
True.
think shit's about to get more polarized because we're about to move into Gemini season tomorrow. We're going to be having some fierce debates will be had. We're coming up on ASO's third birthday. I think that's the 14th, if I remember right, June 14th. It's a lot of shit that's going to be happening. So it's nice to have these moments where we just get to talk about shit. It's been a pleasure uh, Astro broing out with you both. But I
Cheers.
think we're at the end of the night, yeah?
Yeah. Let's do it.
Yeah. I mean, I have more stamina, but you know, it's like I'm not gonna rub it in your guys' faces, so.
Well, good, good, good.
Yeah.
That's good. It was a pleasure. Good
Yeah.
night, bros.
Well, thank
Peace.
you, Astro Bose and Astro
Yep.
Hose. You have a great night.
You too.
Yeah, and
Good night,
say
boys.
hi to all of your loved ones out there because they're
We
being
will.
thought of in all moments of the day by the great creator and the stars above. Peace.
How's above? Peace.